All right, everybody, we're getting started here with another Developer Live cast here on the Game Wisdom channel. For us, oh, I think you had
Yeah.
to. That's all right. But as always, I am Josh Placer, and tonight we're going to be talking to the developer of the upcoming puzzle platformer, Unbound Worlds Apart. For those of you watching this live, a Kickstarter will be out, I believe, next week. I think he said we'll talk more about it. I think that's either Tuesday or Wednesday. If you're watching this recorded, this should be up as the Kickstarter is going on now. Oh, it is going to be Tuesday the 7th. So, please welcome from Alien Pixel Studios. I'm going to let him introduce himself because I'm afraid I may butcher his name. So, feel free.
Hello. So my name is Sergiu.
Mm-hmm.
It's Sergiu, and I'm from Romania. I'm a game developer, like professional from 2015, and we launched our first game in 2016 on Steam and mobile, and now we are working on Unbound Worlds Apart for almost 3 years.
Yeah. It's great to have you on, Sergio. And I apologize if I do butcher your name during this cast.
No problem.
I've had plenty of experience with international guests, and I try to do my best, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that well. But be that as it may, it is great to have you on. And like we said a few minutes ago, that the Kickstarter for Unbound will be starting on Tuesday the 7th for people watching this live. And I guess preemptively, I want to give you best of luck for that.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hope it will be successful.
Yep.
Our development.
Mm-hmm. And you say you've been working on Unbound for about 3 years now?
Yes, the first 2 years were like in our free time,
Mm-hmm.
working beside our job. I was working in the morning, like waking up at 5 a.m. and working till 9, and then go to work. For some reason, I focus more better in the morning,
And I'm
and
the
yeah,
opposite there.
right. Depends from person to person. And for 1 year, we are full time. We decided to take this step, and now we are working on Unbound uh, full time,
Great.
like more than 8 hours a day.
And for people watching us, whether live or recorded, what is kind of the pitch for Unbound? Like, how would you describe the game?
It's a beautiful handcrafted game where you can conjure magic portals in order to learn more about the catastrophe that ravage your kind. So it's a 2D puzzle platformer where you have the ability to summon portals and go through other worlds, and you can experience with many mechanics. And I think you'll see a beautiful story, a fairy tale story, and that's about it in Unbound. For this Kickstarter, we are going to have a demo. It's about half an hour demo where the player is introduced to the portal mechanics and the story as well. So, it, if you want to learn more about the game, definitely play the demo.
Great. And
Yeah.
I'm looking on the Steam page now for Unbound. Is a demo available at this moment?
At this moment, it's not on Steam. It's available only for the Discord people.
Okay.
For the Discord people, demo will be available on 7th of May.
Okay. Got it. And definitely sounds interesting. For fans of Game Wisdom, you know that I certainly played quite a bit of platformers. I'm actually writing a book about platformer design that will be due out later this year. And
Oh, really?
yeah, it's
Nice.
going. I think we said on the title a game design deep dive, and then the subtitle will be platformers. It's basically going to be like a series with each book looking at its own genre or game system. But
Mhm.
we have certainly played a lot of platformers here on the stream, and I know in my spare time as well. And the puzzle platformer is definitely its own like interesting take on it. So I guess what attracted you and your team to making a puzzle platformer for Unbound compared to like a traditional platformer or even just like a puzzle game?
Well, the idea came. So after we finished with our first game, which was another genre, was an arcade. Uh, I got into Braid from Jonathan Blow, if you know it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and Limbo too, and then I uh, just played platformers, one after another, and that's how I I wanted to do a game for with platforming for myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've certainly played. I've played Braid, Limbo. It's definitely a very interesting kind of design compared to a traditional platformer. And I guess a question for you regarding Unbalanced design: is it
Okay.
on like I'm not sure how to put this. I guess is it more along the lines of being focused on platforming, as in a game like Mario or any like challenging platformer, or is it
Mhm.
more focused on the puzzle design, something like the Swapper or again with Braid?
I would say that it's more like Braid than the Swapper
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not that huge fan of pixel perfect jumps,
Mm-hmm.
but it does have some challenging platform moves like close and open the portal really quick or make some movements at the right time. So also you have time-based puzzles which you require to move fast, and in this sense is uh, challenging, but it's not like Super Meat Boy, for example, or Celeste.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that's one thing that we see with puzzle platformers is that you can't really make them too intensive because it kind of gets in the way of the puzzle solving.
exactly. Yes. So it's well, when I design a puzzle, if the platforming is really hard, then I should rethink the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did, and I don't know if it's good or not. You can try to solve the puzzle the easy way, like you can see the solution immediately, and the puzzle will be harder to solve that way with the immediate solution because the platformer is harder. And there is a clever way, I would say, which doesn't require to do the platforming part at all. So I have puzzles with three or two or three solutions. The easiest one is the hardest to execute, like in the platforming way, and the clever one it's like easy to execute for platforming.
Okay.
hmm So that's I see how I design puzzles over the time.
And I
Yeah.
definitely want to ask you a few questions regarding kind of like the puzzle philosophy for Unbound, and we'll
hmm
talk about that one probably in like the next few minutes. But one thing that I just wanted to ask you, and it's something I like to always ask like whenever I have international guests on for these casts, is kind of like what is the state of the game industry in Romania? I see we have quite a few people in chat who are also, I think, Romanian local as well. And it's
Okay.
always like fascinating to me again, like being able to talk to people around the world. Like, how is game development going in Romania?
Okay. So the game industry it's booming right now. I would say like there are around 60 studios in Bucharest alone, I think. And yeah, like 10 years ago, there wasn't such thing like indie gaming
Mm-hmm.
in Romania. And beside that, we have big studios like Ubisoft, um, Electronic Arts, and Amber. They have thousands of people, and but I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Uh, yeah, so there are the people which work in the corporation like Ubisoft, and a few indie game developers, like maybe 2,000 in the whole country. 200, so sorry, not 200. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and I could swear that I spoke to another developer from Romania like a while ago, but the
Yeah.
name completely escapes me. If any longtime fans watching remember, please let me know in the chat. Hello, Mr. Calavera.
And one thing I forgot to say, that now in Romania we have an association. It's called RGDA,
Hmm.
Romanian Developers,
Okay.
and they help us out with getting funding from the government, or going to conferences around the world with discounts and such a thing. So the industry is obviously growing, and that's really great. Yeah.
Good. Good to
and
hear.
Yeah, and because there are, I don't know, like 60 studios only in Bucharest, indie game developers, that's wonderful. Because a few years ago there were like two or three.
And that's definitely great to hear. I guess for people watching, are there any like notable examples of games that have been released from a Romanian studio?
Indie games or
Both
bigger
or
games.
one, whatever.
Okay, so for indie games, there is Move or Die, if you know it. It's a multiplayer puzzle, no puzzle platformer. Sorry.
Hmm.
And there's Door Kickers, which also had success. Which one? Black the Fall, I think, which is another puzzle platformer, was released last year. Yeah, and other than that, there are the big studios are working on games like FIFA or Assassin's Creed. Yeah, and in the past there was like I don't know.
Looks like they're mentioning door kickers. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Door Kickers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was an interesting one. I think I was horrible at that game.
You didn't like it or what?
No, I was just bad at it. I just could not get it. I just had trouble getting into it. I think more from like the UI than just like the gameplay.
I don't know. I think they improve it a lot. And right now they are going to release Door Kickers 2, sorry. And they obviously had some success with the first one.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah.
so they are making a sequel. I had no idea. But nice, good on them. Yeah, there it
Yeah.
is.
Don't know when it's going to be out, but I think it will be great, and hopefully it have good UI.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's great to hear again about the number of games being released out of Romania. I've spoken to developers like in India. I even have a developer I spoke to from Jamaica, and it's just fascinating to hear how game development has grown in all the different
Mhm.
parts.
Yeah.
But
Like I've been in Germany, for example, at Gamescom,
mm-hmm.
and they have so many studios, or UK the same, like they have 2,000 studios. So comparing with those countries, which are, let's say, in Europe, but I don't know, they have a few millions people. They are obviously have a bigger industry than us, and a bigger gaming culture. Uh, yeah, it's really, we cannot compare with them.
Well, not yet. We never know, right, what the future holds.
Yeah.
But getting back to Unbound, also for the chat watching us record right now, if you do have any questions about Unbound or the Kickstarter, feel free to leave them in the comments and we'll see if we can get answers to them. But getting back to Unbound, in terms of, I guess, the portal design, again, you don't have. I'm not asking you to spoil like the game, but like, what
Like,
kind of like puzzles or what kind of like types of situations is a player going to have to get into with Unbound?
so do you want to explain the how I design the puzzles or how
Yeah.
the portals works?
Let's go with the portals first, and then we'll talk about puzzle design second.
Okay, so I have to say that the idea came first in 3D. Like it was a first person game, and you had a magic torch in your hand. And when you rotate the torch, the fire color changed and the environment changed. So that's how I came with in the initial idea. But we realized that we don't have the resources to finish a 3D game, and but we like the idea with the environment change. And I said, hey, let's go to 2D because there are bigger chances that we can finish a 2D game than obviously a 3D. Um, and there was a design issue. So when you design to change the words, if you change them too fast or the whole screen at once, the that can create confusion.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I didn't know how to solve that. And by that time, I was watching a UK band. They had a huge a bubble behind them, and they were singing in the clip, and they had a bubble behind them, which was white, and the rest was black. And the ball was moving behind them and do all kind of stuff. So I knew that from that moment it inspired me to make a bubble. So that's how I came with the idea. So from a music video, yeah. And after that, I took the idea. So we changed the environment, like flipping and switching. Um, but there was a problem. Like it was not interesting enough. Just changing the environment, it's not. Let's say it will become boring really fast. And to fix that, we said, hey, let's add some variation to the portal. Let's think what abilities can portal gives to the player, or how the monsters are going to be affected by the portal, um, how the environment change. So it's so that the environment can affect the game itself, the the mechanic of the portal. Like I don't know, if you have a platform, maybe uh, if you open the portal and the platform will do something else, and all those variations.
Okay.
So
Um,
that's about portals.
and I was looking at the screenshots for the game on the Steam page on the website. And does the player, can they place the portals like anywhere on the screen, or is it kind of like a fixed position, like based on where the character is, where you can spawn a portal?
Yeah, you can place it wherever you want.
Okay.
That makes the design much more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Because after I got this idea, someone told me that it's looking like guacamole, if you know it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I pronounced wrong or something like that. Guacamele or guacamole,
Yeah,
if
I've
you
been
know it.
saying guacamole myself, but we'll
Guacamele.
let the chat decide what's the what's the proper pronunciation.
And I saw that they have fixed position where you can change the words, but that's not the case in Unbound. So if you want to open the portal in air or on the ground or on a platform, you are allowed to do that. And you, as a game designer, I have to think all the situation. well, if I open the portal here and on the other world, there's going to be spikes. That will be not that good for the player. So he will be frustrated, and he will not feel that I don't know, the portal will how can I say that? It can be misleading, right? Like if you open the portal and you die, that's not a good game design, in my opinion, because that was because it was some kind of luck, if you die or not. So we try to avoid that as much as possible. And opening the portal wherever you want, it's hard. And that's why it takes so long to develop this game, honestly.
Well, essentially, how many on the Steam page you mentioned that you're basically going through different realities? I guess if this is not a spoiler or spoil, how many different realities is the player going to go through?
Demo,
Oh, I think you're cutting in and out there a little bit. Whoa. Uh-oh. Yeah, you're breaking up. I can barely hear you. Image is frozen. Let's see. Could be something with Discord. Let's see. I'm going to minimize this for a second. I've lost picture too. Sounds like you're still on YouTube. It could be something with Discord. I'm going to cut the call. The stream will still be going, but let me try recalling you and see if that works. Oh, give me 1 second. Let's see. Dun dun dun. Alright, let's try this again.
So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I should give you the webcam. Okay?
There we go, that's better.
Good.
Alright, yeah, I don't know what happened there. Discord must be acting weird.
Yeah, punishing me.
Alright, yeah, so the question was about how many different realities or different kinds of I guess environments the player will be able to transition to.
Okay, so in the demo there are 3
Okay.
realities. Actually, there are 2 because there is a variation, the inverse gravity, for one of the realities. But there are 2. So it's the normal reality, the inverse gravity, which is a variation, and the night vision, I call it. Reality. But we plan to add more on the final game, and there are still some realities that are not shown in the demo.
Okay. Yeah, so from how you're describing that, I can see how the amount of work is extreme for the game. Because you're essentially designing almost 3 to 4 times the same amount of levels. It's just the different variations of it. And that, of course, is a lot more in terms of art, too.
Exactly, the art doubles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So imagine that if I have 2 levels, the artist have to paint it. Should have the artist to have double the work. Yeah, because and we are super upset because of that. Because if let's say if she if she gets the art from the other worlds, we double the content of the game.
Yep.
With the art.
And probably if you go into your artist like now and say, "Hey, can we add two more worlds?" I'll probably like throw you out of the studio.
Yeah, exactly. We are only two people, by the way.
Ah,
I'm the programmer and the game designer, and we have the artist, which and she also do some level design to
all right.
environment design.
And the art for the game looks really amazing. Like fans of mine know that I really love like that kind of hand drawn aesthetic for a lot of stuff. I guess as you were saying earlier that you originally started this as
Mhm.
a first person kind of game. Did you have
Yeah.
that same like storybook aesthetic in first person, or was it a completely different aesthetic?
Oh, in first person, that idea, or let's say, like it was just a prototype.
Hmm.
So we developed it like 1 month, and then we abandoned the 3D.
Okay.
And yeah, and we took placeholders on the internet, so nothing fancy there.
From like when you started to get serious with Unbound as like the 2D puzzle platforming, did you have it like in your head to have like this storybook aesthetic, or did that kind of develop as you started to work more in the game?
Obviously, that started to evolve during the this time. Uh, First, I should be honest, and there was no story in Unbound at all. I wanted to create something like Limbo, where the player uh, should see the story through the environment, right?
Hmm.
So, like in Limbo, they don't tell you much in the game, but they are telling you a story through the level design, and that's really hard to do. And if I'm talking about Limbo, they also have a child, and you as a person you can relate with a child. But in Unbound, if it's a fairy tale, people are not going to relate, like in Limbo, for example, because who gives a shit about a character, which I don't know, it looks like a monster or something like that. So yeah, what was the question?
I guess I think it was where did the aesthetic kind of come from with Unbound?
Okay, um, so our artist, she wasn't in uh, puzzle platformers, and then I show to it Limbo, Hollow Knight, and Ori, and she really liked Ori, and that's how she got inspired for Unbound. And at the first, we didn't have such a nice graphics. I would say, like it was much more on a mobile style of art. And we went to conferences, like we went to Comic Con or Gamescom, and people said, "Oh, this is a mobile game," and that frustrated us a bit because we don't didn't want to do a mobile game, and we said, "Hey, we should change the art and make with more deep depth." And yeah, that's how, yeah, Unbound evolved.
Okay.
Hmm.
And for the chat, if you have any questions regarding the Kickstarter, that will come up probably in the final part for our stream. But if you have any design related questions, feel free to ask them now. So, with the actual, I guess, puzzle design, again, with every puzzle platformer, they have their own unique set of rules, and that kind of lends into philosophy. So, I guess, how did you approach designing the puzzles for Unbound?
Well, uh, how I approach them. Obviously, I get inspired by other games, and by life situations. And I have a notebook where I draw some levels and puzzles. I when I want to create a puzzle. Usually, I start where the player is and what the objective, and I put them on the paper, and then I try to fill those parts, and I try to keep the puzzle as simple, very simple as number of elements. Like I don't want to put too many stuff in there, like many objects. It should be. I mean, really hard puzzles are those puzzles which you have to make just a few steps and think on the solution in really in a few steps, like 2 or 3 steps to solve it. So
Hmm.
that's my approach, and I also try to do like 2 or 3 solutions for the puzzles. Like I said in the beginning of the podcast, like the obvious one should be easy to make it, but harder as a platforming. And if you think it in another way or in a much clever way to solve it, it should be easy on the platforming way. So I always keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's hard because the portal kind of limits um your environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the limitation it's really good for puzzle to create puzzles. Like you can create a platform that you are not able to open the portal from it.
Hmm.
And yeah, or some walls that if you open the portal, they have spikes and all those stuff.
And that's one of the like very interesting challenges behind puzzle platforming. At least when I was doing my research for my book, I played and I looked at games like Another World, Flashback, again like the Swapper, Braid, Limbo, etc. And one of the
Hmm.
challenges I think these games run into is the fact that there's you're kind of limited to some extent by the puzzle design and the platforming, just in terms of how much you're really able to do in that game space without just kind of be like you're repeating previous puzzles or previous solutions.
Yeah, that's really hard. I must say that that's really a challenge because I find myself I design a good puzzle, and after that there are a few variations to that, and uh, you're going to ask yourself, hey, maybe the player will feel like is doing this puzzle over and over again, and uh, I think that's not a good approach for the game. Like I don't know if you design 30 puzzles and you can keep 2 or 3 from that, it's great
Yeah.
in game. Of course, you have to. Um, if the puzzle is too hard or it's not intuitive, you should put some easier puzzle with that idea before it.
Yeah. Kind of
Yeah,
again like a teach the player like what this mechanic is, like kind of like the
exactly.
basic or the simple way before you hit
Mhm.
them with a more complicated version of it.
Yes, and for example, braid is a really good example on how you're not supposed to do it because I, I found that in braid that there are the puzzle was I wouldn't say hard but counterintuitive because it was really easy in the beginning and then boom a hard puzzle that we cannot solve.
Hmm.
Yeah, so from that perspective, Braid has some really nice mechanics. I like the time reversing the time, but as puzzles, I think it has some. non-intuitive puzzles in it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'll get to your question in a second from chat. Like there are some sections I thought in Braid that did a really good job of kind of teaching the player. Like that
Mhm.
one room where you have like to kill like 6 or 7 enemies, and then the gate opens in the upper right, and there was like
Yeah.
3 or 4 different variations. Like that one I really liked. But yeah, there are a lot of puzzles in that game. I think this kind of gets back to kind of the challenge of puzzle platforming. That it was hard to tell whether or not I was doing the puzzle right and messing up on the platforming, or if I was doing the platforming correctly, but I didn't have the right solution to that puzzle.
Oh, I see what this. Yeah, that's a problem in all puzzle platformers because and it's I have to say it's in Unbound too. I mean, player will try to do the obvious solution, and if that doesn't work, um, he might drop the game and uninstall it, which is not good, or because he's going to be frustrated, or have to try another way to solve it, and he is going to YouTube or through or work through the game.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's what I saw from the conferences, but I don't know how to solve that.
and it is very tricky.
Yeah, but I want to say about Braid. Do you remember the I think in the first map where you have to put those puzzle pieces together
yeah,
and create a platform? That was totally unintuitive
yeah.
for someone who plays the game at the first time.
Yeah, and there's no, again, like you're saying, like there's no basic tutorial. It's something that we've talked about before here on the channel, tutorial design. That if you're
Yeah.
introducing something completely original that the player has no like other foundation for understanding, then you gotta kind of
Mhm.
spell it out for them. Because if they have no idea that mechanic even exists, and you're testing the
Yeah,
player on that knowledge, how are they gonna know that's a solution?
exactly. So that was only by mistakes, but you can solve it only by a mistake or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, also what I saw in Unbound, like when I was doing puzzle, I saw that people solve the puzzle by mistake, and that's also not good. Like if you create the puzzle and people try some stuff, but they solve the puzzles without understanding what's happening there, that's not good either, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I do want to get to this question that was asked a few minutes ago because we could spend another 30, 40 minutes on talking puzzle design. I can feel it in this conversation. But I hope I don't butcher your name too badly. I don't. Ionis asked, "Do you have a design doc, and how many pages did you have in it?"
No, I don't have. We had like we know the beginning and the ending of the game and how it should go through how the player should go through the story and um, but regarding documents, I think game design document is talking about, right?
Hmm.
No, we don't have that, and the reason is the game evolves too much, and the game design document becomes become outdated. And I think a small team with two people shouldn't have a game design document. It's not really, I don't know, helpful because we tried to have one and it didn't work out. And yeah, and you going with the game to conferences and see that what you did is not good, and you have to iterate again and again, and you'll see that the document is not going to help you out. But again, the vision on how the games is supposed to end, it has to be there
Okay.
because otherwise you'll go 10 years in the development. right?
Yeah, like we've spoken many times here with developers and on many of our casts about that challenge of knowing just when to end your game. Because as anyone watching us, and I'm sure you're well aware, as you just said, if you don't know where you want your game to end up, you could be working on for 5 to 10 years, always chasing that next idea. Why don't I put this in? Why don't I put that in? This sounds good. Let's spend another year and a half putting this in our game.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to do that. So have a vision. How do you want to end it? And just put the right amount of content between the beginning and the end. And that's um, how we do in Unbound. But at the beginning of Unbound, we just had the beginning of the game. We didn't know how it's going to evolve,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you have to set the limits at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess with that kind of thought process, in terms of you like knowing like where you want the game to end, like in terms of I guess the overall level design, has it
Mhm.
been like easy for you to kind of figure out? I guess in a manner of speaking, what would be like on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being easy, 10 being hard, like all your 1 puzzles and all your 10 puzzles, or hasn't been a challenge of like I guess design them like out of order in a matter of speaking.
I don't think I understand the question.
I guess in terms like with you like building the game, like knowing like where you to begin, where to end, has
Okay.
been easy in terms of figuring out like I guess the complexity of your puzzles, like being able to
Mhm.
design something that's very very hard or like the highest difficulty in your game, and designing something very very easy, like the simplest level one kind of puzzles.
Um, it's not working like that for me. I uh, I tend to do some puzzles like I don't know on the difficulty. Like I cannot say if a puzzle is hard because I have to test it on people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um, Unbound, it's like the Swapper. It has some Metroidvania elements, and the hardest puzzles are optional. I wanted to put optionals because people got frustrated. If they cannot complete a puzzle, they will abandon the game. And I saw that happening on Limbo, right? And when I design a puzzle, um, no, let's say I design 30 puzzles around an idea, and I'm going to a game convention or a conference or bring some friends over, and I'm watching how they are playing it, and based on that, I take this decision if a puzzle is hard or not.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't put the hardest puzzles at the end of the game. I like to introduce new mechanics and uh, make the people make a connection between some puzzle from the early stages of the game or something like that. It's really hard to explain this.
I know.
Yeah, but I don't want that people want to stuck in some hard puzzles because I was sadic or something like that. I don't know. Do you know? I don't. You obviously played Skyrim, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want, you can finish the game in 2 hours or less, and it's really easy to defeat the dragons. But if you want to do other hard things in your journey, you are free to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I'm trying to design Unbound.
All right. And like as you were saying, like playtesting is definitely very important for obviously for any video game, but when we're talking about something like a puzzle or puzzle platforming, as you've probably figured out, I'm sure the audience knows, it's very hard to design a puzzle that I guess can be approached by everybody. Like
Exactly.
whenever I play like a lot of adventure games and stuff like that, there are puzzles that I immediately know the answer to. Like it's like how this is a puzzle. That was nothing, and then I've gotten stuck on stuff that people have blazed right through themselves. And
Hmm.
like we said, when it comes to puzzle platforming, you always run that challenge of again combining like the hardcore platforming fans with puzzle fans. Because the cast or the chat earlier mentioned games like Celeste, and like with a game like Celeste, there's a lot of advanced movement tech in that game that speedrunners have adopted that have
Yeah.
completely trivialized puzzles that most people would have never have figured out. And
Hmm.
with something like Unbound, and again, with that, again, you're trying to combine puzzle and platforming together. Like, as you were doing playtesting and showing it off to people, how did you, I guess, decide when somebody was having too much trouble with a puzzle that you had to change it versus, somebody just having to kind of like, work its way out, I guess. Like they had to take more time to figure it out.
Okay. So it's like this. If you are going to a game conventions and you showed one puzzle, uh, like I don't know, you have a map, you have a easy puzzle where everybody will do it, and then you have the harder puzzles where you want to challenge the player, and you take 100 people, and like 90 people have problems solving that puzzle, and 10 will be okay. Then it's a hard puzzle, right? But if it's vice versa, if 90 people can solve the puzzle very easy and 10 of them have problems, then I'll let that puzzle in the game, and don't I don't know, not ruining the experience for those 90 people. It's much more, uh, it's a better decision, I think. But if too many people have problem with solving the puzzle, I will put it optional, because some people will want a harder challenge, right? And if you put the puzzle mandatory and you cannot finish the game without it, then people will get frustrated.
Yep.
Yeah,
And like you said, like making that stuff optional kind of gives you like the best of both worlds. Like you're going to have those people who are going to stay on one puzzle until they get it done. They don't care. But then
yeah,
you're going to
exactly.
have people who want to just like play through the game. If they get stuck at something, they just want to move on to another challenge or to another situation.
Exactly. Like there are the puzzle maniacs, which are going to feel very rewarded to solve a very hard puzzle.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Now, I guess another question for you regarding, like, again, like the overall design of Unbound. Like, another major part about understanding what the game is also, like, your intended audience. Like, do you intend Unbound to be played by, like, like, it's supposed to be meant for, like, hardcore challenging players? Is it meant to be more on the casual side, or maybe something more in the middle, in terms of, like, the audience that you're looking for?
So you can decide that at when you are going to playtest the game at the conferences. And what I see, Unbound is designed for middle players. It's not casual because children like and parents which are not playing games often have really hard time to pass even a small challenge like jumping on a platform, and you obviously see that that's not the player you are targeting. And the middle players which are um, playing, but I don't know, from time to time. They are okay with the puzzles. They can solve it. They have a hard time with harder puzzles, and that's why they are optional. And is and I keep the hardcore for the hard puzzle for the hardcore fans. Like I don't know, the Souls games. Yeah, the
Uh,
Souls game. It's really hard from the first stage, right? And it's for hardcore gamers. I Unbound is not. It's not like that. It's if you had played a platformer before, it should be okay to finish it.
okay. And for the chat watching us right now, we're going to probably move into talking about the Kickstarter in like the next 3 or 4 minutes. So if you have any final design related questions about Unbound, please get them in now. But I guess a few final questions about the design, then we'll move on to the Kickstarter, and then that'll kind of be our final topic for the evening. So I know, as a quick time check, we are about to hit an hour in terms of the stream. And I think there's like a 7 hour time difference between us right now, or something along those lines.
Yeah, it's 12. It's 12 now.
Yeah.
12 p.m.
Yeah, so I'm fine with talking for the next 3 hours, so I'm afraid you may fall asleep there. But
Yeah. No, the discussion is really interesting, and I didn't know that you like puzzles so much.
oh yeah, I've
Yeah.
played a whole lot of games. So I try to be as versed in as many of the genres as I can.
No, okay.
But one part of Unbound that we didn't talk about that I want to touch on is the platforming itself. This is something that I was talking about in my upcoming book, and something that I've seen a lot in terms of the platformers that I've played. In terms of, I guess, designing like the jumping of Unbound. Like you said, like we've seen a very wide spectrum of platforming, from very
Mhm.
pixel precise jumping to kind of more like something along the lines of Braid, where when you jump, your character can kind of just like float in the air almost. So you can make very easy jumps like that. In
Yeah.
terms of, I guess, designing the jumping system of Unbound, I guess, did you spend like a lot of time on, or like how did you settle on the actual platforming aspect of Unbound?
Hmm. Well, to be honest, do you really want to know how much I spent on the jumping? I spent 1 year.
Ooh,
Yeah. There were a couple of reasons. One, Unbound is designed it's made in Unreal Engine, and they are providing a character, and you have to tweak it a lot, right? And we also had some problem with the animations, and when we went with the game at our first conference, everyone told us that the character doesn't feel good. It's floaty, and we have to change the animations and a couple of that. And over 1 year, we keep iterating through the jumping system until it feels good. For a puzzle platformer, you don't want to make your character run too fast. So I would say that a character like in Limbo, or no, not in Limbo, in Braid or the Swapper, is moving fine for a puzzle platformer. I would say that Limbo, it's a bit too slow for me and feels like a floaty.
yeah,
But I think that that's a design. They choose that as a design because they wanted to feel more natural, like a human. But yeah, you have to tweak a lot through the speed and the movement of the character and the jump.
yep,
We obviously put. Um, I don't know if there is a term for that. Like if you are running through a platform and you are just on the corner, but you are in the air, you can still make the jump.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really important for every game. for every puzzle platformer. And also, what tip I can give you is like if you are jumping and you are about to land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and you press jump again, but you are not on the ground. You have 1 millisecond to hit the ground. You have to be able to the player to be able to execute the jump. Like don't constrain it to be on the ground. Let like 2 milliseconds if the player is in the air, make the jump, because otherwise it will feel unresponsive to him. Like I pressed the space but it didn't jump,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like for the people watching this, you can see my little hand show here. So it's kind of like if the character's walking and they're like just off the edge, like their feet are
Yeah.
off the edge, but it's still like a millisecond or two, you can still kind of leap off of it. Oh, some games, the second that character is off the edge, they're just going to go straight down. And like
Yeah,
we've
exactly.
seen, like different platformers will embrace or exploit that to different capacities. There's some games I play where your character can be completely over the edge, and as long as you haven't jumped yet, they can still jump. And we've seen again, like it's such a very wide berth in terms of that. And like you were describing there, in terms of getting the jumping to feel right. I guess as a question then, um, when like with the design of the jumping now in Unbound, is it a
Mhm.
case where like when the character is in the air, you can still move them left and right, or is it a case like when you jump, that's a committed jump? So something like Prince of Persia, Another World, Flashback, games like that.
You can go left and right.
Okay,
Yeah, but because it will feel unresponsive.
yeah.
Uh, as yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in my book, I talked about this, like in terms of getting that feel right, in terms of jumping. Like this is one of those things that for people watching us right now, live or recorded, who just play platformers or watch them, it's not something you really think about in terms of the design. You know, as I press the button, the character jumps. You know, big wolf. That took what? It must have only taken like 2 minutes to develop, right? No, it
Mhm.
takes a lot to get that feel right. And as we were talking about in chat, like if the feel of your platformer isn't working, then nothing else matters. Because people aren't
Exactly.
going to stick around if it feels unresponsive. If it, like, one of the big things for me is when I play a platformer and, like, the character moves in a way that I'm not telling them to. Like, maybe I'm jumping and there's, like, an extra second delay between the button press and the character jumps. Maybe the character is moving by himself, things like that. And like whenever I run into a platformer like that, you know, it really just sullies or it ruins the whole experience for me.
Yeah. And also, I will have to mention that people tend to compare your game with other games,
Oh yes.
and if they are used to, let's say in Ori, they are used to do a jump like that, and uh, you have a completely different system. They will say that it's unresponsive or
Mm-hmm.
your jump is not good. So uh, you have to have a satisfying jump for a puzzle platform. That's like the first design you should do,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your explanation was better than mine.
And when it comes to like this, as you said, you spent about a year getting that jumping right. And
Yeah,
like as you said, like it's not just about the jumping. You also have to get the animations that tie to it. And this is
exactly.
one of those very interesting aspects behind game development that something so simple, like you would like from the outside you would think, oh, the puzzles would be very hard to do, like the jumping should be easy, you know, press the button, character goes in the air. But when everything is built on that one mechanic, then you know if that doesn't work, the rest of your design doesn't work essentially.
Exactly. And I have to say other things here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say you design jump, and it feels good to you, and then you go and test, and player will say that it's not good. Obviously, you have to redesign all the game from
Hmm.
scratch. Yeah, and yeah, I don't know. You have to have like an experience with this stuff, and you cannot nail it right from the start.
Yep.
Yeah,
And the long time watchers right now, they know we love when like the old excuse when developer says, "Oh, you're just not doing it right." It's not the game's fault. It's you. You don't understand it. Like that's what you don't say when you're at a game show and someone's having trouble with your title.
yeah. Uh, and another thing regarding jump, there are people right now uh, that they will say that the character is floaty because they didn't play the puzzle games. They play only platformers like Celeste,
Yes.
and which yeah, and you might get like feedback. It's floaty, so you should also be able to filter it at some point, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
If from 10 persons 8 will say that it doesn't feel good, then it doesn't feel good. But if it's just one, it's not obviously to be considered.
Yeah. And that's
Mhm.
a very big point there about, again, like the platforming side of the puzzle platformer. Because, like you said, like games like Limbo and Braid, they're not designed to be pixel precise challenges. You don't
Yeah,
need to have like perfect. I'm trying to think of the term that like speedrunners use. You don't need like one frame windows for your jumping or for obstacles in those games, and you also don't need your character to be that or that finely tuned, but it still needs to feel right in the player's hands. Like I'm sure with something like Limbo and Braid, they probably went through similar iterations to get that feel of the character right.
yeah. I definitely they did some testing.
Hmm.
I remember in an interview with one guy from Limbo, and they say that they I don't know. They call like 100 people to play only the jumping. They call in the studio 100 people to just play some easy puzzles in Limbo, just to see how they will execute the jumps. So obviously, if the jump will feel bad, the whole game will suck.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the jump will also affect the pace of the game,
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. But I think with that, in terms of a time check, we are over an hour in. And obviously, with Unbound, obviously not out yet, we can't exactly get too far into like the details of the design. So I think we're going to move on to our final section, kind of talk about the Kickstarter, and that will lead us to the end of this cast. I'm thinking in terms of length, maybe another, I'm hoping 15 to 20 minutes. Does that work for you? Or we can move it a little faster than that.
Sure. I don't have any experience with Kickstarter. It's my first campaign, so let's see what are the questions. Maybe I can answer them.
Okay, not a problem. So,
Okay.
I guess so. The first big question, then, you kind of answer already with the fact that it's being your first Kickstarter. I guess at what point during development did you decide to go to Kickstarter to help finish Unbound?
Um, I think last year, in January or something like that.
Okay.
So look, we were looking for investors, and because we wanted to do last year in January we were working in our free time, and we wanted to go full time on the game because we wanted to move faster with the development. And to do that, we needed money and resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you can get resources from investors, or you can do a crowdfunding campaign. And that's the point when we decided that, hey, we should make a Kickstarter campaign, because with investors it's really really hard nowadays in gaming. They are obviously want to create a game that is in trending, like PUBG or Fortnite. Yeah, and they want a game that can scale. They have multiplayer and stuff like that. So obviously platformers are not in trending, or they are always it's a big genre where people will play it, but not going to be like, I don't know, PUBG or a massive game like that. So investor will mostly uh, don't going to invest you. And another reason Kickstarter is very good. Like you heard about the expression failing fast, or something like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, obviously for us it's 3 years now, but it's better to fail a Kickstarter than the launch of your game. Because if you are going to put another 2 years in development, and at the end of development cycle when you launch the game it's going to fail you financially, it's worse. And if you do a Kickstarter at the right moment, then you can see if people have some interest in your game or not. For us, it's a bit late because it's almost 3 years now. But I think that if we did the Kickstarter sooner, the game wouldn't be as polished as now. And now we feel that it's the moment. And we also need, obviously, the resources to continue it for another year.
Hmm. Yeah, and again, that's always the very tricky nature of Kickstarter, at least what has happened over the last few years. Again, we've talked about this before, and how many, or like the first few years of Kickstarter for video games, any
Mhm.
kind of project could have succeeded. You could have
Yeah.
said, I have a crazy idea, I have nothing down, give me $100,000, and there's still like a 60-70% chance people are going to fund it just on that idea alone. But today,
Yeah.
it's become a lot harder. Like a lot of people expect that you've done the legwork already, and there should be something there that they can see, touch, and experience.
Yeah, exactly. People want to see um, if you are able to deliver what you promise. And obviously, a picture like 8 years ago, it's not enough. A video is not enough. I mean, look at John Romero.
Yeah.
He did and then he canceled it because he didn't have a demo.
Mm-hmm.
And people expect to have a demo right now, especially if you are an unknown developer. So okay, you ask for that money, but show us something. So a demo is really really important.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said that you started to come up with the Kickstarter. You started thinking about this last year. In
Yeah.
terms of like the actual development, actually preparing it, thinking about your goals, the page itself. How long have you
Mm.
spent working on like the Kickstarter itself?
So for the demo, we started working this year, like in January. We started to put together. Let's take from the whole game we created right now. Let's take the just a part and put it together and see how it is going to feel. So that we started work in January this year. And for the page, we started working on it 3 weeks ago, but there was like some there was Easter in between these weeks, and people are not going to work that much. But this week, for the whole week, we work on the page alone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess for developers watching this right now, did you I guess do it all on your own? Did you like look up any like important resources? Did you have somebody help you in terms of planning the Kickstarter page?
Yeah, I did a lot of research behind. How do I say it? Before this, sorry, like reading articles on Gamma Sutra. I bought a book on Kickstarter from Amazon just to see what the author thinks, and Reddit is also a good source of um, information. And obviously, I got in touch with other creators and asked them questions. Right, and they will tell you, don't do that, do this. This is what I tried. This didn't work at all. Like I don't know. And you have to do lots of preparations before it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
And what was if someone helps, so we got John to help us because he can handle the exposure more than I can do, and that's all. The other things we do it by ourselves. So as an indie game developer, you are going to wear multiple hats. For like, I'm a programmer at my origins, and I'm doing game design, marketing, business, and all that stuff. So you have to be prepared to do many things, and that's good for the team. Like when you have a task and you ask, "Hey, who is going to do this?" People should tell you, "I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that." If nobody wants to do it, then there is a problem
mm-hmm.
in your team,
Yep. And you
because
do
someone has to do it. And
exactly. Yeah, it's one thing we've heard from a lot of independent developers who they don't do any marketing, they don't care about the PR or anything like that. But
yeah,
then at the end of the day, it has to get done. Somebody has to do it if you want people to know about your game.
yeah, but that comes with experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like before Unbound, we launched our last game, and we didn't tell anyone that we are going to create a game. So for the whole year, how much it took to develop that game, we didn't tell anyone. Even our friends didn't know that we are working on a game. And when when the game was released, guess what? No one cares.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like, okay, our game is out, but no one knows about it. And that's when I started to investigate the marketing part. So I started emailing YouTubers, and I see that from 1,000 YouTubers, only 10 or 20 were going to respond, and that marketing shouldn't be avoided, right? And with Unbound, uh, I think right from the first images and of the game, we told anybody we know that we are going to. It was exactly the opposite. And we went to game developers forums and Facebook, and on Twitter, and see how the people react to our game, if the idea is good, and because that can also motivate you. Game conferences and posting on social media and see that gather some likes and retweets, it will motivate you as a game developer. It it will tell you that something's right there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and it's really really important. And I think it's that um, you cannot succeed with it without it on Kickstarter. It's to have a community before you launch the Kickstarter. If you are putting your game there and you don't have a community, I don't think you have much chances to succeed, right? Even if you have a demo, because people don't care about your game now.
Yep.
So over the years, well, or how much time you are going to develop the games, try to also build a community.
And it's very important about that, as you said, because so many developers will try and put the cart before the horse. Like they won't tell anyone about the game
Yeah,
until it's out, and then
yeah,
nobody's gonna know about it.
exactly. That's happened to me.
It's happened to a lot of developers, I'm afraid too. Now, getting back to the in terms of the general logistics of the Kickstarter. So,
Mhm.
if the Kickstarter does succeed, and again, for people watching this live, the Kickstarter is going to be next Tuesday. That's the 7th. If you're watching this recorded, it should already be up. But
Yeah,
if it does succeed and everything goes well, what kind of time frame are you looking at to finish Unbound?
like the game.
Yeah.
May next year. It's our. We want to release it in May next year. Yeah.
Okay.
So we have most of the mechanics ready. We just need to add more content and polish it, like adding particles and all that stuff. And polishing takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
like it like if you put and we are going back to design issues. If you put something in the game like an object, and you interact with it, it should react in some way, like have some particle, have some sounds. It's really important. The particles on every object will make the game feel much more alive.
And from the chat, they're asking, how much of the game is done right now?
Yes, it's about 45, 50, I think. So we know, as I said before, we know this is the beginning that you are going to play in the demo, and we know the ending, and we know the roadmap. And I can say that now we are at 45, 50%. It's hard to estimate, really, really much. But we know that we also need to add more characters and to aid you in the story, to help you with the quest. So yeah, that will take obviously some time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Lily's asking, will you give a sneak peek with a bit bigger demo for the testers?
Aha. We will have a surprise.
All right. And
Okay.
this was asked earlier, but
Okay.
do you have any plans for stretch goals or very special, I guess, backer rewards or things for people to donate for or pledge for, I should say?
Yeah, we are going to have stretch goals. Obviously, if the game is not going to be funded, we are going to continue the development, but we need to have to go to jobs, and the game will be much smaller. And yeah, the stretch goals are very important because we feel that we can add much more content to the game, and that obviously might need to outsource some of the resources, and for that we need money.
Yeah.
That's simple. And what do you mean by pledges? Like,
Like rewards, things for people to get. Like
yeah,
some Kickstarters have like T-shirts, coats,
um,
pins, buttons, you name
yeah,
it.
yeah. So we try to stay as much as digital as we can because it's a pain in the ass. Have, like, I don't know, T-shirts at $30, and you are not going to ship it, and uh, it can be really costly, you know.
Yep.
So we try to make it digital as possible. Like, people will be able to put their mark in the game. We have a reward, like design a puzzle in the game or add an NPC with a quest and all kind of that stuff. Companions and um I don't know from my memory all of them.
All
we
right.
there will be some physical stuff too, but from a higher tier.
Right. Lily asks, "Will you add dog Easter eggs as a stretch goal?"
Doggies are saying. Yes, there will be a companion. Stretch goals. No, no, no.
All right.
It,
Eh,
it it's a game. It's a dark fairy tale, so no humor.
all right.
Yeah.
And I guess as for developers watching us right now, were there any interesting or challenging aspects of building the Kickstarter that you kind of ran into as you were preparing for it?
Yeah. Wow. The most challenging one was that I'm from Romania, and Kickstarter doesn't work here, and I had to find a company in United States to help me host the campaign. Yeah, and that's really crazy because there's a third party which is going to help me uh, host the campaign, and it was really stressful because it was really hard to find someone.
Mm-hmm.
What other challenge? No, I think this was the hardest challenge, really. And another one is our video on the Kickstarter, because we have a Russian accent. It might not feel really good, so we are a bit scared of that. Like, you have the trailer, and after that there are the creators talking about, like, pitching the game, and we are not very satisfying with our voices.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that for me is a challenge. Yeah,
And it can be also very hard if you're not used to like being on camera or
yeah,
being
exactly,
talking to
exactly.
people in person. It can be very challenging. I know. Again, it's taking me a while to be able to sit here and comfortably talk in front of the camera to people for many hours on end.
Yeah, for me, as a programmer, or most programmers are very introverts, sorry. And another issue is our English accent, and because you are not English native speakers, that, I don't know, maybe feel unnatural for someone. But I hope this is not going to be an issue for someone who wants to back the project.
I guess here's a question I was just curious about. That
Yeah.
did you? What was the decision to go to Kickstarter versus something like Indiegogo? So I know Indiegogo. I think is Indiegogo available internationally for the people
Yeah.
watching it? Please correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I guess what was the decision to go to Kickstarter then versus like the other crowdfunding platforms?
Okay. I- the reason why Kickstarter doesn't work in Romania is because their payment provider, which is Stripe, I think, and Indiegogo works with PayPal, which is available in. many countries. And from what we saw on Indiegogo, is kind of dead as a platform. Like
Mm.
nobody is searching for projects right there. On the other hand, on Kickstarter, and I talk with other developers which run a Kickstarter campaign for their video games, and they told me that most of their backers came from the platform itself.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't try to add to bring so many people from the outside, like bringing people from social media or Reddit or your or press. Half of the backers came from the platform itself. And if you put that on Indiegogo, I think you have to bring all the backers on that platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but this is what I heard.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other option was Fig. I don't know if you know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I I don't know why we didn't go there. We Someone told us that uh, it might be a scam or something like that. I don't really know.
I don't have any first-hand knowledge on Fig to let you know otherwise.
Okay, well, I think it's not a scam, but it's something with investment, and it's the backers must take a decision, and it's I think it's a bit harder for someone to back there. It's just my impression.
Mm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
because I saw really successful projects there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, in terms of time, we're probably going to be wrapping things up in like the next 5 to 10 minutes. So, for everybody watching us live right now, this is going to be, I guess, officially last call for questions. So, you have any, please get them in, because otherwise, we'll be wrapping things up really soon. So, with the Kickstarter again due out next week,
Hmm.
in terms of, I guess, your overall strategy, like, are you going to be making like daily videos? Do you have anything like special planned to take place during the Kickstarter?
During the Kickstarter,
Yeah.
we obviously will make updates. We are going to talk with the backers. We'll try to fix some bugs if there are in the demo, because there were some bugs. uh, uh, yeah, we are going to do some live streaming. I will do a live stream together with Olga and tell us our thoughts. uh, yeah, stuff like that. I don't know what else we can do. Also reach to other influencers and bigger YouTubers if might want to check the game.
Mm-hmm.
From what I heard from other developers, you don't have time to develop
Yeah,
during
it's
the Kickstarter. Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of true, especially again being a smaller team as well.
yeah, exactly.
But I do take it as a compliment that you consider me an influencer, though, because we've joked about that here on the channel a few times.
Yeah, you are, especially if you, I don't know, if you are going to launch a book,
Mm-hmm.
and because it's going to have some design stuff in it, I can't wait for it. And that can a book can influence the people, right? And your videos, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Ionis asked this, and I think this is an interesting question. Will having an American company set up the Kickstarter affect the total amount of money you as a developer will receive? Is there a downside in this? Is there a downside to this process?
I sorry, I didn't understand. It was an interruption.
Um, he was asking, will having an American company set up your Kickstarter affect the total amount of money that you will
Yes,
receive?
yes, it will.
Mm-hmm.
Is he's not going to ask for much, but because it's a company, it will. I will handle it a small part,
Mm-hmm.
the sum.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
there's
but
I was just going
What?
to clarify for him. Yeah, there's always a downside when you bring in outside people. The
Yeah,
but it's essentially a give or take. It's kind of like, for instance, like on YouTube, going with like a what's it, a management company or like an ad company for your stuff. Like they'll help you out, but they'll only kind of control what you can put out, and they'll obviously take a cut of your proceeds. For some people, the pros outweigh the cons. For me, like I prefer to stay kind of like a free agent. Like I can do what I want when I want, kind of thing.
yeah, it's exactly. But the situation is, it is what how it is,
Yep.
and we couldn't do anything to do it.
Yep. And
Yeah.
Rob name asks, what percentage does Kickstarter take? There is a solid answer, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
It's I think no, I think Kickstarter itself as a page will take 5%, and the Stripe service, which gather all the money from the pledges, takes another 5%. So it's about 10, something like that.
All right. And
Yeah.
Lily asks,
And to this,
oh, yep.
you're going to add taxes from your country and shipment taxes and all that stuff. So we have a chart on, and if you watch other campaigns on Kickstarter, they have a chart which what they are going to do with the money. And if you look on those charts, you will see like 55% is going to be for development.
Yep.
Yeah, and I have to say that um, we are going to ask for $25,000 for 1 year of development, but life in Romania is much cheaper than in USA. Like
Mm-hmm.
two people can live out from that kind of money.
Yep. And it's very important, like as kind of like as an aside, to understand the budget for your game and set at what you can work with. Because we've seen many developers go on Kickstarter and they will purposely shortchange their Kickstarter pledge, to try and make it more appealing. But then what happens
Yeah,
if you need 40,000, but let's say you say your Kickstarter at 20,000, and now you're basically on task to develop a game with half the budget that you were planning for.
exactly. So that's why you have stretch goals. Like if the game, I mean, I don't know. There are some strategies like they are going to tell you to put less than you actually want, and your objective is to go overfunded. But for Unbound, we what we try to do is to finish the game in those 5,000, $25,000, and to add other interesting stuff in the game should be the campaign should be overfunded and reach some goals, right? Because let's say if I can say that uh, consoles are going to be a stretch goals, and console porting can take a lot of time.
Yes.
And for that, you need to, if you want to make the game and also launch on consoles, you have to bring more people in the project, which obviously costs money.
Yep. And
Yeah,
of course, making sure that your game is compliant with the console's restrictions or their requirements
yeah,
for
exactly.
games.
Yeah, and if you want to add content and add to the game, and you also want to port, you're not going to do it by yourself in 1 year. So that's why you need extra money to hire someone and help you.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So that's why if threshold is not going to be touched, you should not try to create that part in the game. And if we are looking at Hollow Knight, do you know that they had a Kickstarter like 4 years ago?
No, I did not.
Yeah, they had, and they raised like $30,000, and look how successful
Whew.
it went after that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the game that it doesn't seem like it's ever going to end development. Like I think they announced. Did they announce another DLC already for it?
no, but they had like a stretch goal to have another main character,
Mm-hmm.
and they release another game with that because why not?
Yeah.
So Hollow Knight 2, it's called Silk Song, I believe.
Yeah. And something like a Shovel Knight from Yacht Club Games. They did their Kickstarter. I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I
Yeah.
mean it's still like being developed. I think the third and final DLC. I think it's due out this month. Actually, now that I think about it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Let me see. Huh.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's out. Or did it come out already? I completely missed it. Now I'm not
To
sure.
be
It's
honest, I didn't play Shovel Knight.
ah.
It, but
And,
I heard it's really good, right?
mm-hmm. For
Yeah.
sure.
So after
And
Kickstarter, I have to play some games because
yeah.
I have time right now.
And to answer Lily's question, I have not played the demo yet. I did get a key from John that I'll try to get like a little first look video out on the 7th as well for you guys.
Yeah. The demo will have like 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
Like, yeah. It's not that much of a gameplay.
All right. Let me see. I think with that, I am just about out of questions. Again, we could talk about puzzle platforming for another few hours, but I know
Yeah.
it is getting late for you, and I'm sure the cast may be either amped up or they're falling asleep. It's hard to tell sometimes with these discussions. So,
Well,
oh,
well, I see that questions are keep coming. Like,
mhm.
either to have some fun with the newcomers. Uh, no, it should be much easier, so people will enjoy the game. Not the demo is I will make a joke like the demo is going to be easy, but the final game is hard as shit.
All right.
Yeah,
But I think with that, I think that's all for tonight. Again, we can only talk about so much with the game still not, fully done yet, and with the Kickstarter next week or going on if you're watching this recorded. So I think we will wrap it up for now. And Sergio, it was great to have you on. And like I said,
yeah,
definitely the best of luck with Unbound and the Kickstarter.
yeah. It was a pleasure for me as well. I You made me ask some questions for myself and realize some stuff I didn't.
Uh,
Yeah, so that's really great.
uh,
And yeah, let's hope that Kickstarter will be successful and we can continue our journey. And good luck with the book. I can't wait for it now.
yeah, well, as soon as I know about when it's the publishing day, I'm going to let everybody know. I'll be sending a whole lot of messages out for that. But I think with that, we are going to end things for tonight. And if you are free in the future after the Kickstarter and maybe close the development or to release, we can talk again, like kind of like a post-mortem or a follow-up chat.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Really.
All right. So,
Okay. Thank you very
if
much for having me.
yeah, not a problem. If you want to hang on the call for like 10 seconds after we hang up or after the cast is over, I'll just have a few like quick wrap-up questions for you.
Okay.
But before we go, do you have any social media that you would like to plug for people watching?
Okay. So we obviously have a Twitter, which is let me remember.
I think I can grab that.
It's twitter.com /unbound the game.
All right.
Okay, we are most active on Discord, which is discord.gg/unbound. That is really easy. We are also on Facebook and our site Unbound the Game.
All right.
Yeah, but
Eh,
on Discord we are really strong. We like to have a strong community. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. If you want to send me a link to that Discord, I'll put it in the description notes for when this cast goes up recorded.
I'll write it in the section of the.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. All right, so I think with that, we are going to end things for tonight. For everybody watching, whether it's live or recorded, thank you so much for coming out. Be sure to join our Discord channel. I put a link to that in the description or in the chat above, and it should be in the description down below. And if you are a developer working on your own game in the future, or just like to talk about game design, we're always looking for new guests to come on for either a live or recorded chat. I'll be back on later tonight for regular game streaming, and we'll hopefully have another developer cast real soon. So, be sure to come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Until our next stream, folks, have a great night, and be sure to check out the Kickstarter for Unbound, whether you're watching this in the past or if it's already up now. But until next time, have a great night.
Bye.